Hi, and welcome to Your Inside Power. My name is Patricia Stepler, and I'm your show host on this Win-Win Women. And today our topic is ask and it shall be given. That's a statement, we often hear, and yet so often we don't really understand what that means to ask and is given. You see, we live in this very abundant world, but unless we start to ask for what we want, it doesn't seem so abundant to us. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about how some good ways to begin to start thinking about asking. And we're going to talk about supply and demand and what that means and how your inner thoughts can keep you in living a mediocre lifestyle, or how you can live a very opulent lifestyle. So let's get started with today's topic. So, we need to be in harmony with the universe and the good that we want to acquire from the universe. Well, how do we be in harmony with it? You see, we live in this world that is constantly moving and shifting, and we have to be able to shift ourselves. And so everything is vibrating, everything is moving at a very high rate of speed. You can't see it, but the wall behind me, it's moving very fast. We just can't see it moving. And if we were to, have the right equipment, we could look at our hand and we would see that it's moving very quickly. We're moving very quickly. We just can't see it. But as we move, we're sending out waves of frequency. And you see, you can change your frequency. And people have done this by looking at the brain and how the brain's reacting to different stimuli. Well, our bodies, you can also photograph, and you can see how the body's reacting to various stimuli and to what you're thinking. And your thoughts that you have impact the rate of frequency at which you're moving. And this is how we pick up on other people's feelings. If you've ever noticed somebody and you can tell they're not feeling good, you're picking up on their frequency. And so when we become very attuned to listening to our intuitive intellectual faculty, and we start to really gear ourselves up, we can start to pick up on the frequency that other people are on. So what does that mean to connecting and asking for what we want? Well, you see, whether you want to realize it or not, every single day, you are getting exactly what you wanted. And some of you might say, well, I didn't want this certain thing to come into my life, or I don't want to live like this any longer. Well, you're asking for it, whether you realize it or not, by the frequency that you're on. So if you want to change, you have to be able to shift your frequency. And I'm going to show you how to do that today. So what I want you to do is look around you at all the abundance that there is in the world. And there is abundance. When there's an apple tree, it doesn't just produce one apple. I mean, if it is, it's probably not the right apple tree to have, or you need to do something to that apple tree. But an apple tree doesn't produce one apple, it produces bushels of apples from one seed that was planted for that apple tree. Or you can think of an acorn tree. You plant an acorn and a tree grows 50 feet high and produces lots of acorns. But you did not ask for just, it doesn't produce just one acorn. But you see, when you plant an acorn, it doesn't grow into an apple tree, nor when you plant an apple seed, it doesn't grow into an acorn tree, because they vibrate at a different frequency level. And so everything that the acorn needs to produce an acorn tree is attracted to it. And everything the apple seed needs to produce an apple tree, it attracts to it. Well, you are also attracting the things that you need to accomplish what you want. So the problem is not in your attracting ability. The problem is in your thought ability. So that's what we need to change. So when you see all this abundance around you, I want you to ask yourself a question. Do you think that a universe wants you to struggle while every other part of nature is abundant? You know, I never even thought about that until a few years ago. I just was going through life like most people do, drifting from one thing another, allowing the world to toss me around, thinking that this isn't what I wanted. Why do I keep getting these results that I do not want? Not realizing that every result I had in my life, I attracted to me. And when you start to realize that every result you have in life, you've attracted to you, while it may be discouraging to think that, start remembering the good things. And then realize that if you've attracted everything into your life, then you can shift your thinking and attract the other things that you really want in your life. So there's this book that I got a few years ago. It's no longer in being published, but it's How to Personally Profit from the Laws of Success by Sterling Still. Now, you can still get it on the used book market, and I would suggest that you get it. And the reason I suggest it is because it goes through the different laws of the universe, and each chapter is on a different law. But the first chapter is on the law of abundance. I want to read to you just a little bit of the beginning of it. I'm going to paraphrase it a bit. But suppose you had a child and you love this child and you surrounded this child with every opportunity and every advantage you could think of. And they had the best education, the best health care. They had a strong body and a very clear mind. And they could develop, that child could develop the personality, the courage, the industry, the leadership to their heart's content. So you were giving them every advantage, giving that child every advantage you possibly could. All the best things were available to your child in the greatest of abundance. Can you conceive of placing any limit on your child as long as the abundance was to their best interest? He says, with all of these opportunities, suppose your child showed to be unworthy, unkept, without education, without personality, without vision or understanding, half-starved physically and mentally and spiritually. How would you feel? So the child could have all the advantages that there was possible in the world, and yet you chose, or that child chose, not to take advantage of them. How would that make you feel? You know, I've seen parents in that very situation. They wanted the best for their child, and their child, for whatever reason, chose a different pathway. And it brings such heartache to the parents and to the child. Well, Sills goes on to say here, isn't that just about our situation? Think of the lavish abundance with which creation surrounds us. Everything we could possibly wish for has been placed within our easy reach. You see, everything you want is already here. It's all there waiting for you to stretch out your hand and take it. It was certainly intended that everyone who wished it would have an abundance. There's enough and to spare. There's sufficient electricity in the water of a creek to furnish the equivalent power for millions. There's enough atomic energy in the substance we could hold in one hand to light the world. If every person produced his utmost, everyone could have his needs supplied many times over. So here we have a nature that's abundant, and the abundance is there for us. But we've half-starved ourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually to the point where we do not even realize that it exists. So it's time to realize and to stretch our minds and to take off our limiting beliefs and to move forward to the life that we want. You see, we've been trained to think of lack and limitation. That's what we've been programmed. Our minds have been programmed. And it feels unnatural to us to think of abundance. Yes, we might wish for it, but to really believe that we could have it is a different story. You see, as human beings, we were never meant to be satisfied. We are always seeking for something more. And some people think that that's wrong, that you should be satisfied with what you have and be grateful for what you have. Yes, be grateful for what you have. But we are intended, we have been, our minds are there that we can continually seek for abundance. When you set a goal, the goal is not necessarily for the achievement of the goal. The goal is for the growth that you gain as you're going after the goal and to seek. And so that's what we've been programmed. You know, the intent of nature was to program us with this ability to always be seeking for more. But somewhere in there, our program got a virus in it, and the programming was changed to put limits and limitations on us. And I think I spoke to that, how you know, our spiritual DNA is perfect. When we arrived in our body as an infant, our spirit was perfect. But as we started to learn and gather information from around us, and all that information was pouring into our subconscious mind before we had a filter to put on it, it got virus infected. So while we are designed for increase in growth and to move to a higher state, you see, I think that's what wisdom is. Wisdom is as we start to understand and we start to grow. But how much further can that growth go with study and learning about how to move to that more spiritual side of who we are? So once we reach one goal, our desire is for something new. So once you reach that goal, it's time to set the next goal. You know, and so often when we reach our goal, we look back and we think, I could have done so much more if I'd have only allowed my mind to think that. So the universe is full of good, and man can imagine what he wants. But we must believe, we must have faith that we can achieve our goals. We need to draw into our lives the things that we desire and expect. We have to draw that into us. We have to have the expectation, the intention that things are going to work out a certain way. And how do we believe? Well, first we have to be open to the fact that what you seek is already seeking you. You see, whatever you want, it's already there. It's waiting for you. It's been waiting. And you can have whatever it is that you want. The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure that you seek. So let's go after what's restraining you, and let's try to figure that out. You see, most of the time when we're limiting ourselves, we're on a lower frequency level, and we're living on that frequency level. But what we want is on a higher frequency. So let me show you a very simple exercise that you can do that will actually help you to shift your vibration, and you can actually feel the shift while you're doing it. And this is a gratitude exercise. You see, if you're going to really achieve something great in your life, you have to be grateful. And thing about gratitude is to be grateful for what you have, but also being grateful for what you're about to achieve. And, you know, I never thought about that until I heard Sandy Gallagher talk about being grateful for the things you do not have yet. And when you can be grateful for something you have not yet achieved, you are setting yourself up with the belief that you can actually get it. It's a little twist on it, isn't it? Most people think you can only be grateful for things that you already have. But you see, when you believe that you can acquire something and that you can grow and expand in your knowledge and in your ability, then you're grateful for that achievement too, because it's already there. If it's already there, you can be grateful for it. So this is what I like to do in the morning as a routine. And I think this helps us to wake up in the morning with a different attitude. I know when I miss doing this for a few days, I don't wake up in the same way as I do when I have accomplished this for multiple days in a row. I just wake up feeling good. I wake up ready and anxious to start the day. And gratitude's a great way to start it. So this is what I do in the morning. I will sit down and I have a piece of paper or, notebook that I write my gratitude in. And I try to come up with, no, not try, I do come up with 10 things to be grateful for. And it's very easy once you start to think about it. Sometimes I might take a topic, like, one day it might be grateful for all the family that I have, for my parents, for my grandparents, even though they're no longer alive, I'm grateful that they were in my life. And then so I might go through my children and, friends and so on, and people that I'm working with, so it might be about people one day. Another day, it might be grateful to be living in the community that I'm living in the country I live in. And, just all the reasons why I'm grateful for that. Another time, it might be grateful for all the things that are about to come into my life and into my business. And you can mix it up. You don't have to have a topic of the day. And actually, I don't generally have a topic. Sometimes it just kind of, I write down one thing and then it just spills out into a topic. But with relative ease, once you start doing this and you have so much to be grateful for, then it just flows so easily. It doesn't take long at all to do that part of the exercise. And then after I've completed that, if I'm not in the best of moods, I immediately can feel that shift inside of me because I've moved to a higher frequency, because now I'm on a frequency of gratitude. That's going to give me different things to attract into my life. You see, whatever frequency you're on, you're attracting things into your life. But now I've moved to a higher frequency because I'm going to be attracting more good in my life because I'm feeling better. And when you feel good and you feel better, you're attracting things that are on that same frequency that are better. If that makes, I'm trying to keep this, so that it makes sense to you, and I don't want to confuse you too much. So anyhow, once I finish the gratitude, then the next thing I want to do is to write down my goal. Now, that might be a situation that you need to confront with. And I'll tell you what, next week's episode, I'm bringing on an expert who helps people to clarify their goal and get it moving. And so we're going to have a nice discussion on how Michelle, is her name, how she deals with goals as well as how I deal with goals. And we can, kind of bounce some ideas back and maybe help you to gather more clarity. But I write down the goal that I have, and I write it in a way that it's going to be accomplished with ease. You see, if you think something's going to be a struggle, guess what? You will struggle. But when you think something comes easily to you, it does. That was a shift I just recently made, because up until this point, I was doing something in my business that I thought was a struggle. And all of a sudden I was like, I'm having so much fun. Well, when you have fun doing something, it becomes ease. And so when you think of whatever task it is, as it comes to you with ease, it shifts your vibration. It shifts the frequency that you're on, and things become very easy to you. So once I write down that goal, I look at a picture that I've drawn of the goal. It doesn't have to be a beautiful, elaborate picture, because believe me, I do not draw beautiful, elaborate pictures. My pictures are pretty basic and stick figures and things like that. So I draw a picture, and so the picture's there, and now I've just traced my finger around it. And as I go around it a few times, I start to see myself in that picture. And I start to see myself doing the things that I'm doing in that picture. And I start to see myself having the things that I have when I'm in that picture. And then I close my eyes, and I usually have some nice music on in the background, quiet music. And I just close my eyes for about the next 5 or 10 minutes and just envision that I am there already. You see, you have to start picturing yourself with the end in mind. You have to start seeing yourself having already accomplished the goal that you want before you're really going to accomplish it. So I see myself in there. I sit very quietly. And I even see people talking to me. I hear their voices. I see them complimenting me on having accomplished my goal. I have people hugging me and saying how proud they are. You have to do that. And because you have to make it as real as you can. And as I've already talked about the mind, the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between imagination and real. So when you're visualizing this and you're hearing those conversations and you're feeling those feelings, it thinks you've already done it. And it's going to bring more of that to you. I've even read stories. I read Neville Goddard with a friend of mine. And there are stories in there where people have conversations and, they think this is what I want and this is what I'm going to have. And they start to believe that. And when that conversation has, the exact words are said. But then I give you chills. And so once I've completed that, I just ask for guidance for the day. Sometimes I might have ideas that have come to me during that meditation. And I'll write those down. And those are ideas to act upon. And I ask for help through the day. And then I start my day. It's such a beautiful way to shift your vibration. And as you're doing that, you can actually feel yourself shifting. Now, what do you think is going to happen if you shift enough days in a row? How do you think your life is going to change when one day you wake up and you have a super good day, and then the next day you have another good day, and the next day you have another good day. You just keep having one good day after another. What's that going to do for you? So that's my challenge for you. Start your own gratitude routine to do. And when you do that, you see, you have to understand that there's plenty of abundance out there for what you demand. It's there, and you can have that too. So when we think of mediocrity or poverty, that arises from a poverty consciousness. And not that you want to have a poverty consciousness, but you see yourself as struggling. The bills come. You always think of the bill being there. Well, how about thinking about a check being in the mail? How about being grateful that you have the money to pay for that bill, even if you don't? I'm grateful to be able to have electricity in my house. I'm grateful to be able to have a phone that I can call people on. You'd be grateful for those things. You see, the supply is there for your demand. The problem is the power or attraction is weak. It's not so much that the attraction's weak, it's that we're on the wrong frequency. So we have to learn how to attract what we want on the frequency that we want. And think of yourself as a magnet. And as a magnet, you're moving to that higher frequency. And then you don't have to have the worries and the fears. But whatever you demand, something, there's a need there. And you must have an open mind, must have an open mind in order to accomplish it. Thought substance. If you think of your thought, and every thought you have, you're putting out into the world, and it permeates and penetrates through the world, which is what Wallace D. Wattles said. So that thought power is out there in the world, and it can change our lives. Your thought, though, must always be towards upward movement. You see, when our thoughts are negative or discouraging, we're actually pulling ourselves down to a lower frequency. We must think of our thoughts as upward movement. So we're pulling ourselves to a higher frequency. And we have to destroy those negative thoughts as soon as they hit our minds. Doesn't mean that you'll never have a negative thought again, but switch it around. How can you take that thought and turn it? Because the more often you can turn it, the higher frequency you will continue to grow. When we expect work, expect it to be difficult, it is. So how can we shift that to expect it to be with ease and effortlessly? The supply is here in nature. The problem is our own thinking. So money is simply a means of supply. And when you can start to attract in your life the good that you desire, you're going to see things shifting in all other areas of your life. Sometimes we feel the evidence of prosperity and then we cut it off. For whatever reason, we start to doubt and disbelieve, and we cut off that prosperity. When you adjust your desires to fit the desires of the universe, then you're following the universal law and you're following God's plan. Keep in mind, you're dealing with an infinite supply. It always makes me chuckle when you hear people saying, some even natural ingredient, something in nature is running out. Well, maybe it's running out in that area, but it's not running out in the whole earth, because nature is abundant. And maybe you've taken, let's say, all the diamonds out of this field, but there's another field that's going to have diamonds. And if there's none, then diamonds will be created someplace else. There's abundant supply all over the place. I remember, maybe 20, 30 years ago, talking about how there wasn't enough supply of oil to last, a few decades. And there's oil supplies all over. We just didn't know how to get to them. You see, the earth is abundant. It knows our needs before we need them. Nothing is created or destroyed. It just keeps changing. So there is opulence all around us. And what we have to do is to learn to go from being competitive to becoming a co-creator. So if you want to learn more, please reach out to me on Facebook or on LinkedIn or Instagram. Come to my show. Again, next week, I'm going to have Michelle on it. And Michelle's going to be talking about getting those goals set and how to really, get your purpose down so that things do come to you with ease. And I will see you next week when we bring her on. This is Patricia Stepler with your Inside Power. And I want you to be the magic in your dreams and to create the life that you truly want by changing your thought patterns and accepting what's already out there, just waiting for you to call it.